Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Northern Soul Reaper and today I'm going to be reviewing Volume 1 of Lord of Goblins by Michelle Werbrook and Hadi Bendagi. Lord of Goblins is an original English light novel which was published via Moonquill, an online publishing platform. Now, before we get into the review, just a couple of things. The first thing is I was sent this copy of Lord of Goblins for free in order for me to review it. The other thing is I'm going to be going into the plot details for the premise of the story, but I'm going to try and keep spoilers as light as possible. So just let you know that I will be talking a little bit about the plot, but I will try and keep it as, as light as possible on spoilers. So let's get right into the video. Lord of Goblins follows Leonard Errand van der Steen, or Lev for short, as he is transmigrated into another body in another world, following his assassination at the beginning of the book. So far, so reincarnation story, although everything isn't as it seems. Instead of being totally reborn into a new body, Lev finds that his consciousness has been integrated into an existing body, and not only that, he is now sharing that body with another soul or consciousness. And this is something that I was really interested in at the start of the story. This particular plot point was really interesting and I wanted to see how it was explored as the story went on. Now, in his former life, Lev was a former soldier who became a politician, and he worked his way up through society to where he was now. On the eve of his great political victory, his adversaries had other plans for him and they arranged to have him killed. Lev will never see the fruits of his years of tireless labour, at least in this world. The world that Lev finds himself in now is very different. He is in fact no longer a human being. He is inside the body of what is called a bogey. They are basically a type of goblinoid creature. And to make matters worse, he is what is known as a grey skin. They are basically the absolute bottom of the societal ladder in goblinoid society. They're basically slaves. So whose body is Lev inhabiting? Well, the creature was known as Germ. He lived a simple life with his sister in the giant cavern that the Greyskins call home, working for their merciless overlords. When Lev arrives in this new world in this body, he brings with him the memories of his past life, but he's also found that his consciousness is intermingled with Germ's, and so two of Germ's memories become his own, and as a result he has developed a strong familial bond with his new sister, as well as a sympathy for his grey-skinned brethren and the situation that they're in. He's quickly taken aback by the situation that he finds himself in. Not only will he not see his efforts rewarded in his past life, he is now once again at the bottom of the food chain. He has been trampled over again by society. This is something that he's not going to abide, so the story sees Lev going out as Germ to make a better life for himself, for his sister and for the rest of greyskin kind, and he's going to use all of his political prowess and talents that he found and developed in his old life to make that happen. Overall, I really enjoyed the story of this first volume. It doesn't follow the typical reincarnation template that we've seen time and time again in light novels these days, and there's parts of this new approach that really worked, and there's some things I didn't enjoy as much, but we'll get into those as we go. I enjoyed the main story of the volume, especially those parts set in the Goblin world. It does a really good job of fleshing out the world, developing it and introducing us to the setting and the characters, and I can't wait to see where it goes in future installments. Now, the story is mostly told from Lev's perspective, and we get chapters that are set in this new life of his in this goblin world, but we also get some flashbacks to his previous life in some chapters. And for the most part in this volume, the flashbacks are to his time as a soldier. It gives a glimpse into his character, and I feel like in future installments this is going to be used to show how he rose to political prominence. While I enjoyed some of the character development that these chapters brought, I didn't feel like it served much purpose in terms of the overall plot of the book. I was a lot more interested in the Goblin story in this new life of Lev's in this world, and I just found it a lot more engaging than the flashback chapters. And it didn't help things that the flashbacks often came after a cliffhanger in a previous chapter, or right after a major plot development that I wanted to read more about in the Goblin world. You often get these flashbacks that cut away, and it broke up the story a little bit jarringly in my opinion. There are also chapters told from other characters' perspectives, and I really enjoyed these chapters. It helped to set up a good pace for the Goblin story. Sometimes you hear about something Lev's done after the fact, and it just helps with the world building of this series. And speaking of which, there are a great cast of side characters in this story. Some notable mentions are Rak, who is a gang leader and ally of Lev, and also Gorza, who is Germ and Lev's sister. I wish that she was given a little bit more of a role in this volume outside of the worried sister, but it was really fun whenever they were playing off each other in their chapters. I really enjoyed them interacting with each other, so I hope that her character is developed as the series goes on even further, because she's a great character. In terms of world building, this first volume is a great start, but there are some places where I felt I had to go back and reread, or just felt a little bit confused at times. But overall, I love the ideas that are laid out in this book. I like the exploration of the bogies and the greyskins being treated as third-class citizens by the rest of Goblin society. And I love that there is so much about the world and its history sprinkled throughout this book. Michelle and Hadi put a lot of effort into building out this world, so there are lots of little bits of lore and history throughout the book that really help to develop the world and make it feel real and lived in. Now, there are a couple of things I said that confused me at times, and it was more to do with the way it was presented. You get things explained to you in order to build up the world and give you a bit more kind of texture to the world, but it often cut away in the middle of a very important plot piece, or something, someone was having a conversation, and it would then take the time to explain what a unit of measurement in that world was. And it was just a little bit jarring and a little bit rough. I think this volume does an excellent job at laying the groundwork for a fantastic and fun and interesting series moving forward. Like with other light novels, this volume features some fantastic manga style art, and I'm not just talking about the front cover there. You get some great artwork within the book as well, often coming after a great set piece within the volume. Stuff like, I'll show you, you get some great character profiles, and the action is handled very competently as well. The artwork is done by Vu Din Lan, who is the lead artist at Darkness Studios, and they do an absolutely fantastic job of bringing this series to life. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to talk about a couple of things that I've never really had to talk about in other reviews for light novels that I've done on this channel. I did notice some errors in this book, either typos or grammar, and sometimes the page layout was a little bit weird. You had some blank spaces on the bottom of pages where there shouldn't have been. And the typos and the grammatical errors, I feel like they could have benefited from another editor's pass. It definitely didn't detract from my enjoyment of the series. It's just worth pointing out that they were there. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon is that this is an OELN, meaning that it hasn't been written by a Japanese author and translated into English. It is very much an original piece of work written in English, which borrows from the traditional Japanese light novel tropes. There were times when I was reading this that I could definitely tell it wasn't your typical traditional light novel, and a lot of it came in the form of the flashback chapters to the other life, the past life. It's not something that I've ever encountered in light novels previously, outside of the character mentioning where they lived or the beginning of the story. So it's at times like that where I did notice that this isn't your typical traditional light novel. But I think that this is definitely to the story's credit. It brings a fresh perspective to the light novel subgenre, and yeah, I had a really good time with it, and having that new perspective, and you know, it's not totally just going down the reincarnation story. It has its own twist on it. It's very commendable that they haven't just written an original story following to the letter the kind of the playbook of the light novel, the reincarnation light novel. So it's definitely worth a look for that, you know, for that as well. So in summary, I really enjoyed my time with Lord of Goblins. It's a fresh take on the reincarnation story that combines some fantastic world building with a great cast of characters, and it really sets up the series for future installments. I really in particular enjoyed the goblin side of the story, and I'm very excited to see where this goes in future volumes. And whilst I didn't enjoy Lev's flashback to his former life chapters as much, I did enjoy the character development that these chapters brought. I just wish that the character development was integrated into the goblin side of the story, because this was a much more interesting part of the book. The flashbacks felt a little bit too like generic sci-fi for my liking, and it just took away from the overall enjoyment of the story. But I still think that it had some great ideas. I just wish that they were explored within the goblin side of the story. Now, a few typos and grammatical errors aside, this is a very well put together book, and it's really great to be able to hold it in my hand and put it on my shelf next to my other light novels. It's really great to have this, and it's something that I want to see more of in the light novel space. It's something that I'm looking forward to kind of exploring a bit more as well. Now, this is my first original English light novel, and if it's yours as well, if you've never read an OELN before, I would definitely recommend giving Lord of Goblins a go. It has some great characters and some excellent world building, and it's definitely worth your time. It brings enough to the genre to set itself apart, and it's definitely worth a look. I'm going to leave links to Amazon and Moonquill so you can check it out and give it a look if you want. And that's pretty much it for today's review. Thank you once again to Michelle and Hadi for sending me this copy and giving me the opportunity to review it. If you like this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out and lets me know that you're enjoying what I'm doing. Leave me a comment below if you're planning on picking this story up, or if you've already read it, let me know what you think of it. And let me know if you've ever read an OELN before. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Northern Soul Reaper, and until next time, goodbye.